It has been a bit since I've done a full fish room walkthrough. The reason for that is I wanted to get some new fish in that I've had coming for a while. I wanted to let some of the existing fish breed a little more, so whenever I did a walkthrough, you guys would get to see a lot more new and cool stuff, and that day is today. So as per usual, we'll go through all the tanks starting at 10 gallon, go all the way up to the 300, and I think you guys will see a lot of fish that you like, hopefully. So as always, leave a comment, let me know what you think. You can always send me private messages on Instagram at AdamCSolo, or my email is also in the description of every video. So don't hesitate to reach out, and let's get started. So in starting with the smaller, less impressive tanks, on some of these fry grow-out tanks, my goal with the tank isn't necessarily to have it be the best looking tank you've ever seen. It's just to keep it as healthy as possible so the fish grow as fast as possible. So that's the reason why this thing looks hideous, but the fish are growing crazy well. I've got a sponge filter back there. These are the moss balls I got from Aquatic Arts. I do have a promo code for them. Check that out in the description. These absorb a little bit of nitrate and stuff like that, especially in a tank that's only 10 gallon where they can really do some absorbing. So in here I think I've got 15 trout, Champsochromis, maybe 3/4 of an inch, probably smaller, and I have one Lichtenchromis acuticeps. The mother held and she spit them all out when I was in the room, and by the time I got over there to get them, all the other gar had eaten all of them except one little guy. So in catching him, I think he's going to be a resident of this fish room for a long time. I feel like I have to keep him now that he was one that survived. Getting a little bit better here. This is a 20 tall, kind of a poor aquarium size to have for a fish room when you have haps. But this thing is loaded. Again, those are the moss balls, more from Aquatic Arts. I've got probably 30 F1 Tyrannochromis nigriventer from my group in here, right about an inch. I've got about 15 F1 Cyanochromis fryeri from my wild group. And what's crazy about the fryeri in general is that males start showing color super early. So these fish are at best an inch, and if you look close you may not be able to see from the lighting, but there are already males coloring up, turning blue at just an inch. So if you can see it, maybe you can see that guy. Anyway, that's from my wild fryeri group. And I also have more trout in here. I've got trout literally everywhere. They're about an inch. From my breeding group of trout and that are in the 300, 1 male, 6 females, now that they're all mature, I get about 20 to 30 trout eggs a week, probably at a minimum. This is just run with some sponges. They're doing really, really well. Probably be sending these out before too long. Here's a 40 gallon. We're certainly working our way through the tanks that aren't that exciting, but a tour is a tour. There are some 1.5 to 2 inch trout in here. Won't be here for long, just kind of a temporary holding. That is my subdominant albino fluorescent male. You just saw him go back there. And I put him in here with the standard fluorescent females in hopes of getting some split gene fry to where out of one single spawn I could get some standard fluorescent and some albino. So stay tuned for a little bit later in the video to see how that's going. Starting to get into some more entertaining tanks to look at. If you saw my last video, this is the group of Placidochromis Mbamba Bay that I got from Josh Cunningham at Cunningham Cichlids. 3 males and 7 females. A really rare fish, a really nice looking fish. There's one of the males there. I've got to think these are going to breed pretty well, especially with the ratio that I have. You'll see the other 2 males here before too long, but feed these guys real quick. Give them some North Fin krill. And I'm really excited about these guys. I do anticipate that if these breed well for me, this will be one of my long-standing groups, just because the fry are always incredibly valuable, and they're one of my personal favorites. So if they make some money and I really like them, they'll be a mainstay. So let me know what you guys think about these. I think they're pretty cool. Not always available, but I guess when you find them, you gotta jump on them. On to the 75 gallon, which is the tank I get the absolute most emails and private Instagram messages about. I have F1 Tyrannochromis nigriventer in here from my wild group. I've got some at 1.5 inches. I've got some at 2 to 2.5. Probably going to add a few of these back into my group, or again, similar to the fluorescent albino I talked about earlier, I may grow some of them up and just sell them off as a group to, a breeder who really likes the species. I also have in here the hybrid. These are hybrid. The female was a Bucochromis lepteris green, male a Malawi Trout, and so far they're really an interesting and cool looking fish. Some hybrids look ridiculous when they cross, but with these being sort of similar, it looks like they're just going to be green trout, which will be super cool. Starting to have some clear males pop out now, and they're the largest of those are about 3 inch. It doesn't look like it, but they're growing crazy fast. Quick feeding, you can see their ferocity. Down here in the corner of the 75 in one of my egg tumblers, that's a nice batch of about 50 F1 Cyanochromis fryerii. So they'll get in the breeder box in probably 3 or 4 days. This is the mixed 125, and there is a lot of stuff going on in here. First, this is the tank where I have the albino fluorescent. You can see that's the dominant male. Just one of the more stunning fish I've ever owned. And you can see his females in there, the pink ones. There's 5 females in there. Probably the brightest fish that I've ever owned. Outside of them, I've got my group of 2 male and 9 female Malawi trout. They're mixed wild and tank raised, so the fry that I get, I don't sell them as F1. It's just kind of a unfair thing to represent them as if you're going to try to get more money for them. You can see the male there, clearly a really great looking fish. I got the male from local breeders Tom and Debbie. If you guys missed the walkthrough of their incredible award-winning fish room a little over a year ago, I guess you're missing out, but got him from them. There's a picture of that video if you guys want to go back and check it out. He's about 7 inch, maybe bigger than that now. The females are in varying sizes from 4 to 6 inch. Also in here I've got a group of 6 unsexed Taniolethrinaut preorbitalis. It's a mix of males and females, but that group is going to be sold to a local friend of mine, Alyssa. She's got a group she's going to add them to. This is typical Adam C. behavior, buying fish that you want with no real plan as to what you're going to do with them, and then you end up just reselling them for what you paid. So you essentially wasted all your time. Won't be the first time I've done that. Certainly will not be the last time I've done that. Also in here I've got the 2 males, the other 2 males from the Placidochromis Gold and Bamba Bay group. That was 3 males and 7 females. The dominant male was just out to just wreck these 2. So being fairly calm in general, this tank is with gar and the peacocks. I just threw the 2 of them in here and they're doing just fine. So odds are what I'll do is keep a subdominant male just in case something would happen to my breeder, and I may end up selling the third once he grows up, and I'm sure that he's perfectly healthy enough to move to someone else. In the corner of this 125 with the fluorescent, those are split gene fluorescent. So From the 40, my subdominant male albino fluorescent bred with some of the standard females. So hopefully these will give me a mix of regular fluorescent as well as mix in a few albinos. In this breeder box, these are all albino fluorescent, full albino, not split genes, so came from the albino parents. Got 30 to 40 in there. Just an incredible strain of fish. In a different breeder box, these are more of the split gene fluorescent. So albino male, standard female. It would be cool if I could get half and half, but you know, the albino gene is the subdominant gene, so to speak, so odds are, you know, it's probably going to be something like 80-20 or 90-10 or whatever. Either way, we're going to kind of keep checking on it, sort of as an experiment, and see what kind of ratios we get albino versus standard. Now we're back inside in the basement to what I consider to be my actual show tanks. This is what you would call my man cave, I would assume. My dogs hang out down here with me all the time. One supervisor, Maya. Two supervisors. Old boxer mix rescues that we got a long time ago. But the basement's sort of mine, the upstairs is sort of my wife's, so we kind of do our own thing on separate floors as far as hobby goes. I've got some pictures from Frankie Kenneth, the cichlid soldier. Behind me is a 300. Between those two tanks is the bar down here, and I've got other, you know, personal kind of things that I'm interested in. For those of you who don't know, that's my brother. He is a zombie in the Walking Dead series. If you guys watch that, I think this is his 5th or 6th season that he just wrapped up. He's been killed at least 50 times on that show, killed as a zombie. So if you guys watch the show, you'll see him pretty much every week of the show. So if you see a 6'3", tall, thin male zombie, that's going to be him. But moving on to this actual tank. This is your standard, everyday, 6 foot long, 125 gallon. I've got this group of 24 Tropheus capili albino. Just a truly awesome fish to see in person. It's like a swarm of bees. The problem is it's just so hard to get a clear shot of them because they never ever stop moving. I have used on this tank, as I've done videos on before, those of you who follow a long time know that I prefer to have algae growing in my tanks. I just think it looks natural. Just a personal thing, but to help that, to speed up the growth, I also use, you know, some Sea Chem Flourish type stuff, which is plant food, but I've used it solely to help grow algae in the past, and I'm doing it again now, and it does work. I mean, you can see it's already given me green algae, and this has only been, you know, a week of using this stuff. So that being said, let's give these guys a feed. This is probably the staple I feed them the most. This is the North Fin flake, the kelp flake. You can hear my cat whining in the background. You're fine, buddy. Due to the amount of interest that I've had in this tank and in these fish, I really plan to do an update just on these fish at least 2 to 3 times a month. So, hey buddy, can you give us a second? Just a lot of people want to see the growth rate, so what better way to do it than, you know, video the whole thing and follow along how they're doing. So before the 300, for those of you that have not met our new cat, that's really attractive. His name's Nitro. He was a family cat, and they could no longer take care of him, so we inherited him. He is 11 years old, and yeah, he's cries all the time. Tries to talk to you. Anyway, his name's Nitro, but he's a bit chubby, so he is called Nugget until he loses a few pounds. Right, buddy? Finally, to the 8-foot 300. This is a tank that I have multiple breeding species in, and it's a fun tank, and the breeding that I get out of it is just sort of a bonus. So currently in the tank I've got a wild group of Tyrannochromis nigriventer. You can kind of see him there near the top, and we'll zoom in here in a second. I've got a group of tank-raised Malawi Trout. You can see the male is way over there on the right. I've got a single Lepteris green male, but he won't be single for long. He's wild. I've got a group of wild Linny that I'm actually going to be moving on to my buddy Chris. You guys have seen his fish room before, and he's going to do some breeding with them, which gives me some more space, which I'll have no problem filling. I also have the group of wild Cyanochromis fryer is in here as well. Just a bit closer, this is the light is a Kessel light, the Tuna Sun. Awesome light. You guys can see the video of it maybe a couple months ago. I think they're going to be fed, but they're not. So the wild nigriventer group, there is the male, about 10 inches now. As I've said before, one of the nicest predator haps that I've ever owned, I think, as far as just pure looks and quality. Everything in here is from Southeast cichlids except, I don't remember. Hell, I can't keep track of all the stuff that I buy. So there's the nigriventer male. You can see some of his females over here. You know, they're 8-inch, no problem. Moving back down, maybe they'll follow me. Lepteris green wild male, about 7-inch. There's the big boy, tank-raised Malawi Trout, Southeast cichlids. He's got great color if he'd ever come down from the very, very top of the tank. If I back up, he'll move. There you go. All the fry that you saw earlier are from him. And you can see his females are scattered all over in here. 6 females for him. There's the wild Linny, a few of them that I'm going to be taking to Chris shortly. The wild fryer eye have finally started to produce for me. Such an underrated fish, and the sad part is I think it's underrated not because it's not an awesome looking fish. It's underrated because it's not rare, which is, you know, sort of disappointing. But I'm as guilty as anybody of, you know, the more rare a fish is, you know, the more I want it. Nitro is commenting in the background. I mean, come on, buddy. The centerpiece is from Universal Rocks. It's not a 3D background, so if you go on universalrocks.com and search for 3D backgrounds, you will not find that. It is in the feature rock section. The plants in here are from elitecichlids.com. It's another sponsor of the channel, to where if you guys want any of these custom plants, promo code in the description, you can save some money. And the rocks are from Aqua Decor. You've seen them before. I've had them for quite a while. So let me know in the comments what you think. I'm positively certain I didn't touch on everything nearly in depth enough for what people wanted to hear. Between just getting home from work and then having to dodge the 2 dogs, plus the cat, I get rushed a bit. So any questions you have, please ask in the comments. Feel free to send me private messages on Instagram or send me an email. Just let me know. Oh boy.